Dr. Spencer, thank you for the amazing lecture. It was really great to get acquainted to your work and to get to know something more about your project. In general, the Everest project aims the development of a new treatment of placental insufficiency. So can you please tell us something more about the key points of this project?
So placental insufficiency is a problem with the blood supply through the mother's uterine arteries and across the placenta to the fetus, and so there's a problem with the oxygen and nutrients that the fetus is getting, and it doesn't grow properly inside the womb. And if this happens later in pregnancy, it's not such a problem. But if it happens early on, then sometimes the fetus doesn't get to a stage where it's big enough to survive delivery, and there's a high risk of stillbirth. At the moment, there's nothing we can do to treat it. There is no treatment. And we're hoping that by giving this new treatment, which would increase the blood supply through the uterine arteries, we may possibly be able to find a treatment that will increase the growth of the babies inside the womb.
And what do you think could be the criteria of choosing women when it comes to the trial of women for this interference?
I think it's a difficult balance. So we don't want to be intervening with something that's completely new, that hasn't been tried in pregnancy before, if those pregnancies have got a good outlook. And it can be difficult to tell whether a baby is small but is going to carry on growing, or whether that baby is small and is going to struggle to grow and to get big enough to survive. So we've been looking at ways that we can predict whether these pregnancies, when we see them in the middle of pregnancy and the baby is very small, whether that's going to end up with a baby that survives, or whether that pregnancy is sadly going to end in stillbirth or neonatal death. And we found that some of the ultrasound markers can help us to predict this, but we're also finding new blood tests that can help to identify those pregnancies at the higher risk.
So wow, this will be really interesting. And would you introduce us to your field of research a little bit more?
So I work particularly within fetal and maternal medicine, and I think we're an area that's struggled. So there's very little investment in research in pregnancy, particularly in developing new therapies in pregnancy.
Yes.
So there are thousands of clinical trials happening across the world, many of them within cancer, but within other diseases. But there are very few happening in pregnancy, and there are virtually no medications being developed specifically for the problems that affect pregnant women and their babies. And because so little has been done, it makes it harder for us to develop new therapies. And so working with the group at UCLH and wider within the Everest project, we're hoping that by setting up this phase 1 trial, it will help to provide a template for more research and more treatment for the problems that affect pregnancy.
And speaking of problems, have you faced many ethical issues which turned out to be obstacles for your future research?
Ethical issues are really important in pregnancy, and there's a very difficult relationship between the pregnant woman and the fetus, because in most countries, in the UK specifically, the fetus has no legal rights. But I think it's generally accepted that there are ethical and moral obligations to the fetus. So the ethics of doing this have been a really important part of our work, and we've worked with colleagues at Queen Mary's, Professor Ashcroft and Maria Shepherd, and they have looked at the literature and interviewed people with interests across Europe and women who've had previously effective pregnancies. And although there are issues that come up, these are issues that we can hopefully overcome. So a really important one is making sure the women are informed, that they understand exactly what is happening, and that this would not have been tried before. I think sometimes there's a desperation to cling on to any possible hope, to try anything just in the hope that your baby is going to survive, and I think that could be a special pressure for pregnant women. But the women themselves and the other groups that we spoke to felt that with the provision of independent advice and giving the women time, that they are capable of coming to these decisions and of reaching a decision on whether or not it's something they want to do.
I see. So you have attended today many sessions here at our Congress. So could you please share with us your impressions about ICMS?
I have been so impressed by ICMS. I'm really overwhelmed. So I was not expecting a conference on this scale. I hadn't realised that you would have students from the number of countries that you do. I have so much respect for your organising committee and for everyone who's taken part in the Congress, and I think it's fantastic. So to give medical students the opportunities to take part in the workshops, to present their work, and for so many of them to come and take part in that, I think it's really impressive.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'd like to welcome you to Sofia once again. Enjoy your stay.